Okay, thank you so much, and also thank you, HANNOVR, for bringing me over. Title of my talk is Entering the Scene, a research into body language in VR, because that's what I'm doing at the moment. I got an artistic fund to do research about what body language can do and can mean in VR. But before I get there, I wanna step back and tell you something about my company, because I think it's easier to explain what we do if I just take you back a few steps and show you some of the weird surprises we had with our artistic research along the way. So we are Monobanda, and we are working towards a more holistic view of game design. So what do we mean with holistic? Well, I don't mean, you know, the glowing rocks and the chakra and stuff. I just mean it in the core sense of the word holistic, the interconnectedness of things. So most of the time when we think about game design, we're thinking about, you know, game rules, that a set of game rules that gamers control with their thumbs, and they look at it with their eyes. You know, that's it. But a human is more than that. And if we look at VR and also AR, we suddenly see that a lot more of the real world and our own body is entering this design field of game design. So we should do something with that. So we make, for the last 10 years, we've been making experimental games that are all about the human body. Sometimes it's about screaming, sometimes it's about flirting, sometimes it's about singing or breathing, sometimes it has to do with sport. But the most important thing is that we make sort of performative spaces. So our installations and our games do not necessarily have a lot of game rules. They're not necessarily about winning or losing. They're about getting connected with your body again. They're about self-expression. So yeah, we come from a weird background that mixes theater with game design. So, you know, once you get that in school, this is the kind of company that comes out of it. And there's one kind of old project that I want you guys to see before I dive into the VR stuff. Just because it's a nice intro. So we made these very lightweight plastic helmets, and in the helmet there's a phone. And on the phone you see yourself live from a distance. So this is how you see yourself. So it's this weird out-of-body experience. And the reason I want to show this is because what we saw here happening still inspires the work we do today. Because two things happened. People see themselves from a distance. And because they see themselves from a distance, they become hyper aware of their own body. So suddenly they see, oh man, is that me? Do I slouch that much? You know? So, and they start to explore their own body again. They start like, okay, if I walk like this, okay, yeah, that really is me. They see this little person walking in front of their eyes. Oh yeah, that is me. And the second thing that happens is, because people have a helmet on, there is a certain sense of anonymity. So people dare more. So we exhibited this, you know, on art biennales and in musea and stuff, and always the same thing happened. You sort of break the social rules. People get a lot more friendly with each other. People dare to touch each other. People get into this performative spirit. And the only thing you need to do is let them look at themselves. So that is what I'm trying to tell you guys by showing this is that we get inspired by human behavior, and that with very simple game rules, because this is just a security camera connected to a free webcam app we got off the internet. So there's no coding involved, there's no designing involved. You can do this at home with 2 fruit baskets and a Skype connection. And you can make something that drastically alters people's behavior for the better in a sort of playful way that connects people. So people always call this VR helmets. When we put this on a festival, in the festival booklet is always like a VR project by Monobanda. But it's not. This is, this is actually the opposite. We take you outside of your body, and VR puts you, in your body, in the virtual world. So, but something else happened. We met the wonderful chap there, Owen Harris, and I started to make a game with him, and I also realized, VR is really great. VR is so close to our theatrical nature. The VR is about the human body. VR isn't an extension of film. VR isn't an extension of cinema. VR is about the human body. So Owen Harris and me began to make Deep. And Deep is a meditative breathing game, a meditative VR game controlled by breathing. So you see the thing on the left there, stage right? That is the controller Owen made, and it measures your diaphragm expansion. So if you've ever done mindfulness or therapy for maybe anxiety or whatever, you'll get learned that you can breathe through your belly, and that's a far better way of breathing. It regulates your emotions in a successful way. So it's used in therapy and in mindfulness. We can do it together for a moment. So put your hand on your stomach and try to push your hand outwards in sync with the circle. So we made this because we just wanted to make an awesome meditation game. I'll show it in a sec. Let me see, can I show it like this? I think the internet is too slow for it, but luckily I have my playlist. So it's an underwater game, and just like with real diving, your breathing controls your buoyancy. So if you breathe in, you fill your body with air and you go up, and if you breathe out, you sink down again. So by breathing in a stable rhythm, you sort of float through the world like this. You see a circle in the middle of the screen that signifies your breathing. The whole world reacts to your breathing. So if you breathe in, all the plants glow up or fold open. So, yes. And a weird thing happened when 4 years ago we started showing this project. We were absolutely mobbed by people from the mental health care sector. They were like, oh my God, do you know that deep belly breathing is like the cornerstone of every form of therapy we have for people with anxiety attacks, for people with autism, for people with anger issues. So we started to work together with the Radboud University, and for the last 4 years, we've been developing and researching this game as a therapy tool for children with anxiety attacks. There has been 3 scientific papers written about the game, and we're starting to pilot it in hospitals at the end of the year. So this works towards how we work. We don't make products, we make weird artistic experiments, which is very scary because you don't know what comes out of it. But then you throw it into the world, and if it's close enough to human nature, to the human body, you will find your niche, you will find a place where it fits. So that's kind of how we work. Let's see if I can get it to control this again. And then we were designing this breathing game, and then we got all these voice coaches. Oh, but I do breathing exercises too. So we got voice coaches into our studio. We started to experiment with voice games. One of the biggest I want to show of them. So I have a lot of small, weird prototypes, and I have a few big things. I want to show one of the bigger things. No, I'm going to show the weird prototype first. So normally I don't show this because it's not done. It's just me messing around. But again, we start with the feeling of the body. And we thought, wouldn't it be nice if you... Wouldn't it be nice if you could see your voice coming out of your mouth? And so you make a sound, the ball gets bigger. Once you stop making sound, the ball comes out. And building on that very nice feeling, because it feels really physical, like it's really your voice, we start to make things that make it fun. But it starts not from a game rule set or a product, it starts from that body feeling. But then, of course, you can go bigger. For example, by working together with Dutch opera. And this loops back into the theme social again, because we're getting more and more social with our work. In this project, it's a theater opera piece where 60 audience members come in.
Hi. Welcome to the inside of your own body.
And 30 audience members get a helmet.
You're actually never here, are you? We are going to explore it together. Just put your hands on your belly, underneath your belly button. This is the beginning of everything. Do you feel that? Now it is time to start making real sounds. But for sound you need foundation, like a floor. A floor to put your own feet on.
So what happens? Each one of those 30 people have a helmet on.
Yeah.
And in the helmet they hear that coach and they follow that coach. But all the helmets are networked on exactly the same timing. So all the audience members outside get this spooky experience where you have this silent circle of people, all with helmets on, all blind, and at exactly the same moment, in total silence, they go like, hand to the stomach, oh, together. So they start singing together because they're following the voice coach, but at the same time, they're forming a choir. And then the professional choir mixes with them.
Best wel awesome. Dan zei ze van, kijk naar naar je voet en dan keek je naar beneden en zag je allemaal van die gekleurde kringen eromheen. Ja, dat was echt heel gaaf.
Die bril was het bijna het heelal met allemaal sterren en cirkels wat dus bewoog. En als je dus je stem liet horen, dan werden die cirkels en die figuren werden dus daardoor versterkt.
Weird discovery also, that girl said, I see colored rings. A few people said that. The game is in black and white. So there's something weird going on there with associations that we're hitting something, but we don't know what yet. Let's see. And then, thank you for indulging me, we finally get to where we needed to be. Kinesics, that's what we're working on now. Because we realized that a lot of the things we're doing have to do with communication, right? And if we think about communication, we think about talking, we think about writing, but also 30% of our daily communication is body language. But if you look to online communication, of course, you can't do body language. So that's weird, because in our normal life, 50% of our communication is body language, and online, which is quickly becoming the main way of communicating, there's no body language up until now, because of course we can give everybody this motion tracksuit, but that's not accessible to everybody. That's not commercial, but far more people are getting VR helmets, and with a VR helmet you suddenly have head movement. We can point our heads, we can square our shoulders, we have 2 hand controllers. So we don't have the whole body, it's more like a marionette puppet, but it's something, you can do something with it. So we were like, oh shit, if we know this is coming, we need to do something with this, because we need to make games that are about body language. So that's what we started to do. We partnered with a Dutch company that is an expert in making online multiplayer components for VR, which is very handy, because if we have to do all that stuff from the beginning, we're lost financially wise. And we started to making first this prototype, which is sort of a charade kind of thing. I can show you. Oh, this is the other one. Then I'll tell you about this one. So, we wanted to test a few different things, because that's how we work. We don't want to start with a finished project. We want to start with that body feel. And one of the things that was really interesting to us was that instinctive feeling of connection two people can have when, for example, they're dancing and one person is leading and the other person is following, and without having to say anything, they can switch, and you both know it, right? So that feeling of being in sync with each other, we wanted to do something with it. So we made this prototype where both players are invisible, but when their hands are in the same spot, suddenly their hands become visible. And if your hands are no longer in the same spot, they're not visible. And then we let players do something, which is very simple still, prototyping. Grabbing a block together. But if you're going too fast or too slow, you're not in sync with the other person, the block falls again because you're not connected. So, again, I don't know where we're going with this, but I know it's going somewhere. And this is the second thing, it's a little bit further along. Here. That, what happened just there, that is for us the holy grail. That people in a playful state can understand each other without a rule or a game rule telling them. So you saw the two people, they're standing there, they're waving, and then one person does this, and it takes the other person only a fraction of a second to get, oh, we're doing. So it's about human nature. It's about almost on this instinctual level. And if you can get on that level, you're on a very healthy level, on a level that can work for education, communication, therapy again. So one player sees an emotion and then they have to emote, act out that emotion to the other player. And the other player has this bucket with emotion balls and you have to pick the right one. I think you were relieved. So that is what we're doing right now. We're trying to find out if we can find very simple concepts that hopefully also can inspire other makers, because as you can see from my work, we are more of an artistic, pioneering, experimental group. So we're not always about making the finished game. But we're very good in nailing down something new. Yeah, we just have dreams with this. If you can imagine for the game where you're being in sync, that it's a game where, for example, you're cutting a bonsai together, something really slowly. Are we going, you have a scissor in your hands, are we going for this leaf or are we going for this leaf? And you have to be in sync to do it, otherwise the scissor falls down. Imagine two people being on totally opposite sides of the world, doing this very delicate, tender, slow dance together. It would be amazing. Or making a choreography together, playing in your room with somebody on the other side of the world, but still have that closeness and that connection. So that is things we want to throw into the world to hopefully let other people to say like, how about this? Anybody, you know? So, and then why, you know? Yeah, I already told you a little bit why. Because of course this doesn't have what I'm doing with that research doesn't have a commercial application right away. So why the hell are you doing this, Monobanda? Well, we're a foundation, so it is our mission statement to explore new forms of play. So we have an artistic mission statement to do that. And I think for us it's important to realize that no matter if you're making art or entertainment or doing something in the medical sector or in the business sector, if you're working in VR, we're all pioneers, right? Because it's so, our medium is so young, it's not set in stone yet. So what is our medium? You know, it's not an extension of film, it's not an extension of games, but what is it? And by allowing ourselves the space for open experiment, we allow ourselves the room to stumble into new discoveries, like you saw with the helmets in the beginning. We didn't know that it would teach us so much about human nature that we still use it in all our projects since. So for me, these discoveries don't necessarily have to be a game. I would also love it if this research could lead to a research again with behavioral scientists for therapy, maybe for people that have cognitive trouble with recognizing emotions, or for people that have trouble with physical contact. Could be immensely interesting exposure therapy. So yeah, this is us just stepping out into the blackness that is unexplored VR territory and feeling our way around. And maybe if we find something, we drag it into the limelight and then we show it to the rest of the world in the same way that I'm doing here. So yeah, thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Very, very interesting. Thank you, Farina, by the way, for suggesting you as a speaker as well. Are there any questions? Of course there are. Wait a minute.
Thank you for your talk. Your last project you explained where you have to guess the emotion of the other person. Do you use just the standard hardware with the hand trackers and the headset, or any extra trackers on the feet or something like that?
Yeah, good question. No, we purposefully made it as simple as possible. So of course we can put a leap motion on the helmet so that we have finger tracking. We don't do it. We don't have trackers on the feet because our philosophy is, you know, we can also aim a Microsoft Connect at someone, and then we also see the whole body. But we want to go for the least tech possible because that's the tech that more and more people will have in their living room. So I want to work in a way that it's accessible for as many people as possible. But funny design anecdote, because you can see your feet, people want to control their feet. So our solution will be just having no feet. You know, in the next versions, we'll just have a skirt there or something, a long skirt, like you've got a wizard robe on or something, I don't know. To, in that way, guide people's expectations in the right direction.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, up there.
Thank you very much. I really liked your ideas, and actually I'm really impressed it is outside of industrial purpose. This is actually the reason because I'm here. I'm looking if VR is possible to use in research, in psychology research actually, therapy, education and stuff like this. And at the moment I only saw objects in VR. This is not so much what I was looking for, so this was actually much more my purpose for coming here. So do you think it is possible to actually, you just said it is not this much, it's bad to see your own feet. Actually, I think it is quite strange that you can't see your own body if you want to use it in a purpose like I would like. Yeah. And another question is, do you think it is possible to simulate other person in VR instead of objects?
Yeah, well, that's what we're doing. So to answer your first question, the way you show the body is more of a design and a purpose question. It's not a question of yes or no. So in a body language game, of course, we render you in a full body that you can see your arms and you know what you're doing. But in the underwater game Deep, we purposefully left your body invisible because some people are afraid of diving. And we tested and we saw that that if you don't have that physical representation of yourself in that world, the world also feels softer. So if people bump into something and they see that their body is bumping into something, it feels harder than if the camera just bumps into something. So for Deep, which is a meditation game, we have no body, and that makes it feel freer and softer. And for the second question, yeah, we can render another person's body. Like the gameplay that you saw, that's two players in VR playing together. So yeah, this one. That's two real people waving and acting out stuff with each other. I can even show them from the outside because this is the players that are doing that. These players are hugging each other, so in real life they're not hugging each other, but in VR they are standing very close, so they're hugging each other and they're having a lot of fun with it. And I have no idea what these two players are trying to teach each other, but they got it. So they got each other. I don't know what's happening there, but yeah. So yeah, you can totally render another person's body and make games that are about physical closeness. That's one of the things we want to do with this.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming from Utrecht. And I think the next speaker fits right into this topic. So, first of all, of course.